Good. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Public Facilities Committee meeting for July 14th. We'll call this meeting to order. We will ask for the approval of the minutes of last month's meeting on June the 16th.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Great. It is time for our privilege of the floor. If anybody here would like to address the Public Facilities Committee, now would be the time to do that.
Nobody.
Not seeing or hearing anyone for that. We have two items on our agenda. It should be a relatively simple meeting. The first is the acceptance of funds from the FAA for upgrade to security gates design at the Chautauqua County Dunkirk Airport. Is anybody here to speak to or present that to us? Thank you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Tim Carr, Director of Public Facilities.
And good afternoon, John McNamara, Airport Manager.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. What do we have here in front of us?
Yeah, so everybody's having a good start to the summer and had a good holiday. May look familiar. This was approved in FY '25. Design and construct was approved together for 3 upgraded security gates at the Dunkirk Airport. We had some challenges in the bid process. Didn't receive as many bids as we would have liked to have seen. And what we did receive, we thought was higher than we'd like to pay. So we're going back out, and this time just in the design phase for the gates, which a lot of that work's been done. It's 3 gates upgraded at Dunkirk Airport. And as you can see, total project for the design is $50,538 with the local share of $1,264.
Like that local share. Thank you very much. Anything else? Questions, comments from the committee? To John or to, go ahead, Bob.
I assume this is federal money that has similar strings attached that
Yes.
we've had in the past.
Yep.
Okay.
So, this year, we're actually at 95%. This year and next, it's 95% versus the 90%. So 95% federal money, 2.5 state, 2.5 local.
Thank you.
Very good, very good.
Just a quick.
Yes.
Is that, I see that as a really good thing, and I'm wondering why, like why, we're getting a little bit more from the federal than we have in the past, and I'm not arguing, obviously.
Yeah, just the
Wondering what your thoughts are.
the legislation that covers FY '25 and '26 included the additional in there for the, yeah.
Very good, very good.
Do you have any idea on
Nope.
the cost of building the gates when, this is just for design only, so.
Yep. That's a great question. I can follow up with you on that. I don't have a specific number right off the top of my head here now. And a lot of that will depend on the design,
Yeah,
and then it will depend on the bids.
right.
So,
Do you think we can count on 95% from the federal government for that? or-
if it falls within the FY '26, yes.
Okay, I hope so.
Yep. So, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Any others? All right, great. We appreciate that. All those in favor of the proposed resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And carried. Thank you very much. We appreciate that, gentlemen. John is sticking around. Tim, are you sticking around as well? Okay, great, great. So, knowing that we had one item of that nature on our agenda, I thought it was a good time. John has been with us a number of months now, and I think maybe the second time up here for the committee, for us, maybe third. But I figured it'd just be a good time with our agenda and with his timing coming in, just to give us a brief update on where he is with things with the airport, and he has a handout for us, and I'll give the microphone back to you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the time. I know Olivia had asked, and I jumped quick at the opportunity. So I have basic, short PowerPoint, I'd like to put up on the screen here.
Either flip it over or push real hard.
Yeah.
It's the wrong side. Maybe I knew what you were doing.
Okay, so, starting off, just a high level snapshot on our financial position. Currently at 46% of our projected 2025 budget, so view that as we're in good shape. Continue through the rest of the fiscal year. Airport operations for May, there's a little bit of a delay on the fuel flowage. As far as these being May numbers, we didn't have the June numbers at the time we put this together, but you can see in Jamestown, we're up almost 100% in the fuel flowage in May of this year versus May of last year, so that's great news. And I can tell you from being at the airport, you know, it's been busy, a lot of corporate traffic, primarily, you know, Fridays, Mondays, things like that. Presumably people coming into the area for tourism and the lake and things like that, so. Dunkirk also up, not as much, but definitely an increase from 2024, so that's encouraging.
John, I got a question.
Yep.
I assume we make, I don't know if we use the term make money, but we sell fuel for more than we pay for it, yes?
So our Centric Aviation is the fixed base operator, FBO on the field. And so they're responsible for the actual fueling of the aircraft. But we do receive a percentage of it.
Percentage of it, okay.
Yep.
But they do the business of it, and then we
Yes.
receive a percentage.
Yep, that's all been negotiated as part of the lease. And-
I guess I knew that, but thank you.
No, good question. Yeah. Departures, arrival information, as you can see, we're increasing as, considering, you know, the weather and the attractions this time of year. We're increasing in departures and arrivals, which is good news. And then also the jet ops, for 74 in Jamestown and 30 in Dunkirk for June, so.
What are jet ups? Jet ups?
So jet ops are any corporate, any type of a jet.
Like Cummins.
Yep.
How many days is Cummins in general?
It varies, it's not a set schedule,
schedule.
but Cummins has been in, and, you know, a lot of the fractional charter, you know, bigger names, NetJets, FlexJet, things like those folks have been in. So, you know, a picture like that it's not uncommon. Then, you know, there's days you may not have as much, but.
So that's not a setup, that picture.
What?
So, I'm sorry, can I just
No, go ahead,
keep asking?
by all means.
So, arrivals and departures, I assume, is there a fee to land at our airport?
So the FBO would be responsible.
Again, it's
Yeah.
FBO.
Yeah.
So, we have the agreement with FBO and all that is pretty much
All
and do we
terms.
get a percentage of that also?
Terms of the agreement, so.
Do we get a percentage of,
I don't believe, I'm not 100% on the actual landing fee. don't
Okay.
believe on the landing fee itself,
Okay,
if there's one that's charged by them.
okay.
That, oftentimes I think industry practice would be dependent on the type of aircraft,
Mhm.
you know, too, and how long they're planning to stay. So you may have a trainer, you know, a small Cessna at the airport that they wouldn't assess a landing fee to necessarily. Maybe a bigger jet, you know, or something like that, they would assess a fee.
I'm gonna, if I can keep, I'm not gonna do that again, I'm just gonna keep. I'm trying to
No,
get
hey,
a
that's why
feeling.
I'm here, I'm.
Yeah,
all-
no,
all ears,
I,
yeah.
I'm not, yeah. Are we gonna talk about FedEx at all in here?
It's not in here, but I'd be happy to talk about it. Yeah.
So I found it interesting, and if I was the only one in the room, I've been the dumb guy in the room before, but when they said, I was just under the assumption that FedEx was flying in and out of the airport. You know, FedEx, it's at the airport. What does FedEx do? They get it there overnight and they.
Sure.
I was surprised that they don't use that facility for aircraft. Do they ever use it for aircraft?
So they have in the past.
Is there a
And-
way to promote that? Or do they have too big of jets or,
No, so, I mean, and I'm making some assumptions, which, you know, hesitant on that, but making a few assumptions. My understanding is in the past, they would use a smaller, perhaps like a Caravan, a single engine Cessna, it's a turbo jet engine with a propeller, can hold a lot of cargo payload, fly in, and it made sense at that point in time, years back. Current day, my assumption is the land route to Buffalo right now must be more economically viable for them, but in the future, it's definitely a possibility, you know.
were they
as-
flying into Erie, you know? Or was that strictly,
I can't say for certain,
I think it was all ground.
yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
about the Erie route.
I was just impressed when, I just assumed, you know, here it is, airport, FedEx.
Yes, yep,
So I was surprised that that wasn't going on.
yeah. So,
Okay. I'm excited for them to be there. I'm happy for them to
Yes.
be there. I'm happy it's getting bigger. It's all good.
Yes.
I just,
I mean, certainly we'd love to have, you know, love to have them operating flights in and out. I mean,
but they're gonna do what's
Yeah.
best for them, and that's fine too. Okay. Okay, thanks.
So, first week of July, we actually, completed our annual, 14 CFR, that's Code of Federal Regulations, Part 139, Regulatory Compliance Inspection. We've worked primarily with two branches in the FAA. One branch is the Regulatory Safety Standards Compliance of the airport, and the other side is the ADO, New York ADO, you know, grants, federal funding, you know, things like that. So, inspection was 2 days. First day, inspectors came out, around 2 o'clock we started, and we went till about 10:30 at night. We did a night inspection of the entire field, all the lights. Anything that should be working should be a certain way, and it's very particular, as it should be. On the airport, the inspectors assessed that. Came back the next day, we did our daytime inspection, went through all our training records at the airport. I did a manual revision to our airport certification manual, so they approved the revision. When I say I, our team, the team did a revision, and I led that. So they were pleased with that. Had a few minor, you know, there was a couple individual lights that were out, which is not uncommon, and some paint that we can spruce up. But we're well on our way for completing any of those actions that we agreed to with the FAA, and it overall went really well. So. We have what we call the hangar A, or the former Lustrum hangar. Working on making a determination on the best best suited tenant, and offers for that hangar. Hope to have that, decision in the next week or two. Exciting on the restaurant, you may have seen, we put a Facebook post out, on the restaurant and some other things, trying to just do some preliminary advertising along the lines of, hey, you know, we need to follow our current, our county process. I just wanna make you aware that space is available, and keep a lookout, and if you're interested, please give us a call at the airport. We'll put you on a list, make sure you know when the RFP information comes out on that. So, open maybe September timeframe, if we have interested folks, and competitive offers, to maybe be September, October, be up and running with that.
Do we have individuals interested in that hangar?
Yes.
So there is a
Yes.
demand for it, okay.
Yep.
Have you heard anything about the restaurant yet?
So
Anybody?
we've actually received a handful of calls, like same day, so that was good. I actually had an appointment today, but didn't show, so.
Just tell them we're not putting any new equipment in.
I think it's all new.
Yeah, I don't know if there is anything that has to be new, but, yeah, okay.
Central Air Service, essentially at the same spot, waiting to hear back on the application submitted to the Department of Transportation. We did, a few weeks back, we did get an inquiry for some additional information, just brief. So that was good news in the fact that it was still being considered on that. The security fence around Jamestown, the perimeter of the airport's working well. I mean, that was a great addition. The FAA inspectors commented on the quality of the fence. That was definitely a highlight. Runway 1331 rehabilitation, we're approximately about 60% through with the design. Anticipate final design completion, which will then be submitted to the FAA, the ADO office, division of the FAA, for review in December, if all goes well. With that, and if approved, we would anticipate completion in the fall of 2027. Terminal buildings, met with the interior designer about a week back. I had a really good meeting, and we're about 30% through on the design. Anticipate completion of that 30% mark by the end of the month. Final design by the end of the year, and if approved, construction approved and bid, you know, figure like a January, February bid. We could begin construction in spring of 2026, which is a much needed renovation there, spruce up.
What's the terminal building? When you say terminal building,
Yep, so Jamestown.
terminal building meaning,
So not to include the restaurant area, it would be not to include the restaurant area or the office space that's leased currently to the FAA for the Navies, things like
but more the operational part of the,
the main seating area, the terminal area. Restrooms, the restrooms would be upgraded, and cosmetics, everything, my understanding is everything meets compliance, ADA compliance, in the restrooms and everything. We've had that inspected, but it would be upgrades, cosmetic upgrades. to the
so if we don't get this air service, do we just put a halt on that, or do we continue on? I
So-
mean, what's the need for it if there's nobody flying in and out of there?
Well, yeah, so good question. So the air service would be great, right? We're all,
Sure.
we're all one, right? But like we had mentioned, I mean, with the jet traffic and Cummings and the other folks that are using that space, you know, there's quite a bigger audience than just potential air service. So the terminal, I mean, it's been a number of years, and I should have put the exact date, but I believe, let's say, a number of years that it's been renovated. So, this would be an opportune time to get those done and have the benefit of that with the federal funding, state funding.
And just for trust me, we're just talking, I'm not trying to be that guy.
Nope.
We meet up there once a month for the Parks Commission. I mean, it's a pretty nice facility as is. I'm not saying there aren't areas that could be better, but it looks pretty much like add water and stir and you got a terminal building.
Yeah, so this project wouldn't be really the only, there would be no structural changes to the terminal. And I should have clarified that, there's no structural changes. We may take out an interior wall. When you walk in the main doors, to your left or right, whichever way, there's some things there, we may reconfigure that. And then some other minor, but everything else would be an existing passenger footprint, just upgrades, lighting upgrades,
bring it
ceiling
up.
tiles,
Carpet,
carpet.
bathrooms. I think bathrooms are probably the original hardware and original,
Yes.
when the terminal was built.
If you do get the air service, would you have to do something different for baggage? Since I've been in there and I've never really thought about this before. You know, first thing you do, well, you go through security and then you're like, okay, I've gotta check my bag. Does the
Yeah.
airport have that already?
Yeah, so the current system, we may need to, maybe not necessarily redo, but how we use the current system, we might have to work that a little bit, but that's a good question. As far as the exact details on how that would work, I'm not, right now, I don't have the best position on that. for you.
Couldn't you take care of a lot of that stuff by, I know when you go in the airport, they not rope, but they have the
Yeah,
Yeah.
guiders, that the only thing between you and being over there is
yeah,
a felt
that's,
thing that,
yeah,
So
and
don't go over
in
there.
the smaller airports, that's not uncommon. To see.
so if we got this air service and we're back up and running in the terminal building as we're 20, 30 people going through there a day, and is that the airport operator, are they running that, or is the county running that part of the?
So that's still up for negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, and that would be all part of the contract, the air service contract. Yep.
So the question is, would you run the airport or would somebody?
So we would run the
Through the-
airport,
Okay.
but as far as handling baggage, handling passengers, the question would be, would the service provider provide their trained personnel to do that service, or would they look for our county personnel to be trained and qualified to perform that service?
Yeah. I mean, ideally,
Or a third party, so, like, at many airports, you have the airline, and you have the sponsor of the airport itself, and then you have a contractor that the airline subcontracts with to provide those services. At the larger airports, that's usually the most common
Yeah.
scenario.
I mean, I'd love to see that data, because I just came back from a trip to Denver, so drove 2.5 hours to Cleveland.
Wow.
Spent the night, took a flight out at 6 AM to Denver, and then same thing coming back, and,
Yeah.
yeah, so flying out of Jamestown and to a hub,
Yes.
then to Denver,
Absolutely.
would be a good thing.
We'll take it right to Denver if that's where you wanna go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sold.
Well, I would like to see whatever costs us the least and makes us the most.
Yeah, that's kind of
I'm
my.
on board.
I don't know if I had to say that,
I
but
like
I'm
your logic.
Well, can I ask that question? Does the airport make money?
So, I mean, we're federally, we're federally state funded. you know,
Okay.
So you have to take into account, we're looking at these without those funds, the projects, I mean,
Yeah.
would be excessive, we would.
Mhm.
So by having that funding, it allows us to continue to operate.
Right.
Without that funding, it wouldn't be probably possible
Right.
or viable to keep the airports going. So, yeah, so. The, we talked about the security gates and guidance signs, replacement of the guidance signs at Jamestown, which will go a long ways with our compliance as well. Dunkirk easement project, that's ongoing initiative, which will be a priority over the coming weeks, certainly is important. And the design for the Taxiway Alpha in Dunkirk is in progress. Just like to give a big shout out to the guys that make it all happen at the airport and gals. Brian Bates, Assistant Airport Manager, Tom Atwell, Michael Zambor, Susan Barrett, Timothy Troutman from Jamestown, and Amy Lord, Karen Voigt, and Dunkirk, and Colson Barber, our seasonal employee, are doing an excellent job. Also, I'd like to especially recognize and thank Assistant Airport Manager Brian Bates and Administrative Aide Nikki Adams for their leadership and dedication to county airports, going above and beyond these past months during the period of transition. They really have done a lot. I mean, they've really kept things moving and been very helpful. And I'm very thankful for that. Definitely feel they should be recognized. Don't forget flying breakfast Sunday morning. Looking forward to that in Dunkirk. And then September 27th, we're hosting a Stomp Out the Stigma 5K at the airport. Be a unique event, 5K on the field. And currently in the early planning stages for a potential 2027 air show at Jamestown.
There's people there already, they're waiting for it.
Line up. John, we appreciate that very much. Anything else for us that we missed? Committee, anything else for them while they're here? Yes, ma'am.
Who's that guy?
I've been around long enough, we've done 2 studies on the airport. And I love a good study as much as anybody else. I guess what frustrates me individually, personally here, is we do these studies and then we put the studies away and we move on. I guess what I've been looking for years, and maybe it can't be done, just kind of like and I'm not asking for it right now, just just a vision of, it seems like we're good at just doing business as you know, day to day, this is what we do, we sell fuel, we do this. And now, I should have realized the airport operation people are doing more of that than we are, but I would just like to see a little more. We're gonna put in new hangars, we're gonna, you know, I hear people are talking to me, you know, I wish I could get a hangar over at Jamestown or Dunkirk there, you know. Why don't we build them? Maybe they're too expensive, maybe you gotta have, the rules and regulations are just, but if they're needed and can be put in, and my assumption is, if that was the case, you'd be doing it. I try to, when I'm talking to constituents, I err to the department heads, the people running this, know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I never go, yeah, I don't know why we don't just do that, because there's usually a good reason for it. But I guess what I'd like to see is more, just what's the plan? What, you know,
Yeah.
just what's the plan?
No, I think.
And
that-
I've never really gotten the plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of studies we go into, they ask you, studies are interesting because they'll say, well, what outcomes are you looking for? Well, A, B, and C. So then they do the study and they go, if you go with A, it's this, if you go with B, it's this, if you go with C, it's that, and you go, well, what did we just pay for? We gave you the answers and the questions, and you just filled in between. So I guess maybe I'm not being reasonable, but just something more than just the day-to-day stuff, which is important, and it takes a lot of work to do day-to-day stuff, I get that. Am I making sense at all?
Absolutely.
I vote against the federal money because it keeps us in the airport business. Now, you talk to some people and they say, well, we have to be in it anyhow, we don't have a choice. Well, I've talked to a few federal and state leaders and they're not so sure about that. So, I don't know, I guess my personal challenge to you is, I just like to see more of a plan. Where are we gonna be next year? Where are we gonna be in 5 years out? We tend to do that with other departments and everything. And if I'm missing it, I apologize. I'm not trying to be critical. If it's there and I'm not seeing it, but I don't know. I'd like to see FedEx coming in. I'd like to see the Air National Guard have a station at one of the, or, I don't know what I'm even saying there. It probably doesn't exist, what I just said, but that's my challenge. Me, if it's not just me and you, that's kind of my challenge and a little bit of my frustration. Studies are great, but
I think it's more than reasonable. If I was being in your seat, you're looking for information, right? You need information, you need data, you need good information to make decisions. That's important. You need to know what the future looks like. And so I welcome that and definitely look forward to working with you closely on it. And we'll sit down. I'd love to sit down with you.
and we gotta start with a tour. I need tours of the
Yes.
facilities. And Shannon was always gonna do that, we just never got together, so we'll have to make it a point
Absolutely.
to, because like I said, having the commission meetings up there, I walk around, I look at stuff, and it's impressive. I mean, it's all right there. It's like, wow, this is too good to be here
Yeah.
and not being used.
Yes.
And, even though I'm known as Mr. No for the airport, it's not, I mean, I wanna see the airport succeed more than, or as much as, if you're a legislator and you don't wanna see them succeed, you should be doing something else. So that's never my intention. It's just, I get frustrated with being in the business without having a vision for where we're going.
Yep.
So I'll end it there.
No,
Thank
I
you.
certainly appreciate that.
Appreciate that, Bob. Anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Gentlemen, thank you for being
you.
here this afternoon. We will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, let's stay a little while longer. So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very
Right.
much. How you doing?
I wanna stay all night.